All right, hey there. Good day. Happy Friday to everyone. Sam here with you. We're kind of midday. It's May 18th. And as it's Friday, seems like a good time to revisit Bitcoin here. So Bitcoin Friday it is. I've got a 2-hour chart here from Bitfinex. And this is the chart I was using last time we did a video on Bitcoin. I thought sometimes it's a good idea to just revisit those and see how things played out. Well, you can see here, kind of interesting. Not exactly here. So we had the idea that we had an ABC going, and this would be the bullish count. That from this low we've put in a 1, and we're having somewhat of a complex correction over here. So we had laid out the possibility here that we get an A, B, and then we come down for a C. Well, we pull this little box off here. So our B wave was shallow. That's our B. But we've had this little kicker here and now this extension here. And you can understand why the hot boxes are here. So if we just dig in here a little bit more and look at it and see what was behind that. So here was the potential pivot here for the A wave. Right? We got that pretty much to the tick. Shallow on the B, and then coming down here. The reason this box is written here is this is just the front run at the 50 up to the 618. So this was so if I take this one off. So this was the first idea here. We had the front run on the 50 at the 1272 on the idea that this C, we might have something like this. Yeah, that would have been unusual considering the lack of subdivision in that C wave, and ultimately we end up coming down here. So this was a contender. We had a pretty good rip out of that. That you can see amazing. We catch the 50 to the tick. That's 81.94, and we get up to 88. $700 push off of that 50. But ultimately we roll over, and it looks like we may have a contender here for a low. We'll take a look at that in more detail. But that second box. So if I bring these back, can I do it? There it is. So if we bring this back, all this is just the front run here. The idea being you'd front run the 50 to the 618. And looks like we may have that coming in here. So this is a contender for the second, given where it's landed. So let me pull these off here and we'll look again. So could it be? Yeah, could be. Could be, right? So this would be A, B. We'd be finishing down here. Actually, to give it more detail, to stay with that theme, I think there's more complexity in here. No surprise, Bitcoin's not going to make it easy. So here is the current bullish count that one of my senseis and I have been exchanging, going back and forth on, trying to see if we can get it to fit. And I think this looks promising here, considering this potential pivot here. So with that, kind of revisiting where we were previously and the idea that we're probing for a 2 low back here. Let's go look at it in a little more detail with some analysis tied to where we sit right now. So with full breakdown here, and we'll look at that little hot box there in a second. So looking here now, so this is under the assumption here that we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. We put in the 5th. So this is still the bull count, still with the idea that this would be a 1 wave. So in the larger degree, we'd be working from this low up to our pivot here. Oh, do I have that already? Yeah, yes, I do. So hang on a second. I just couldn't see it. There's my 1. That's what I was looking for. So there I have a 1, potentially my 2 here in blue. Potentially is in. So 1, 2, and now we want to be there for the big 3. Well, we gotta qualify this correction here. So looking at it, it's a tricky one, no question about it. But it's really a process of identifying the 5s and 3s, just to try and make it easier on yourself. So from this potential pivot up here, let's see if this. Let me get my little shadow effect on. It makes it easier to grab the pulls. Okay, so from my pivot up here as a potential for my 1 wave high, we finish with a 5. Here's my 4. Finish with a 5, and then we start. I get right out of the gate. I get a 5. Gives me my A wave. A little shallow. These B waves have been shallow. I get a B, and then I can finish down here as an ABC. So I've got a completed. If you need me to, let's see. We can do it. Let's just go down to the 15-minute so we can qualify it. So getting back to where we left off. So if we look now in this C wave here, we want to find 5 in that C. It's there, so you can see it. So if I grab my little tool here so we can get Now it looks like I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to finish my C wave here. So there's my 5. C comes down. Well, C comes down just a hair. There's my 5. So I've got 5, a shallow 3, but it's there. So 5, 3, 5. All right, ABC is in. Okay. Well, could have been the bottom of it. We had everything we needed there. C was shallow relative to the A, but that's not a big deal. But we get a little three-wave X, and then down we go. We continue to go down. So this was the contender. Now we've got a more complex correction. So from that potential ABC that completes, now we connect it as we've had all of this additional trade action here. We've got to connect two ABCs. So W is completing the first ABC. There's my X wave. Then just a straight rip down for my A. I've got some complexity here, but I get a diagonal into my A, down for my B, up for my C. So I've got yet again another shallow B wave. So if I pull from my X to my A low here, you know, you can see we come up here. It's interesting. We get a little pivot here, prior support, offering some resistance, really not relevant anymore. But here we come. So here's my A wave, ABC, into my B wave. Right, now it looks like we've started down again. So looking at where we are, take note of what we do, and now you see why that box is there. So from the A wave, I go ABC into a B. I come just shy of the 618, and I rip down, and I do it in 5. So from that B wave here, from this B in yellow, I get 1, 2, 3. Here's my ABC, and looks like I've finished down here in 5, and I've come to the algo target, to the tick, and it looks like I'm moving off of that. So at the very least, I'm getting a reaction off of that pivot. So let me go back to let's go back to a 2 hour here, and we'll complete that box so you understand why that's there. So right, so you see the algo target here relative to the A, the B, and a target for my C. Well, the reason that box has got a little more meat on it is so that if we look here, so you can see all I've done here is I've drawn a box here between the algo target at 23.6 and the 618, and just popped a little hot box there as a potential target, and we got the algo target to the tick. So here in this bullish count, if this is going to play, a reasonable expectation that pivot low is significant. It's certainly technical. It's right in the pocket, right, is where we started, with that hot box showing, well, here's my 50, here's my 618. That's where you're looking for the 2. And the advantage of what I'm trying to show you here is that you can get more precise than that. You can get right down to a gnat's ass on that and get right into where. So we literally identified the pivot to the tick, at least so far. And you know, I'm not saying that we're brilliant. I'm just showing you how that hot box was drawn there. Nothing extraordinary here. There's no rocket science here. I got to swing high, I got to swing low. There's my 50. Here's my algo target. I must have shown that here on this channel, I don't know, 1,000 times. Figure 2-3 videos a day. 300-400 videos, at least 1,000 times I've shown you that as a technical pivot. Well, so is that the absolute low? No, it's certainly, I wouldn't be that presumptuous to suggest that, but it's certainly a contender. That certainly could be our low. We're right where you'd be looking for the second, and right down to breaking all of that subdivision down. I've got just a beautifully technical pivot. That could be the low. Well, how are we going to know? Well, you're going to need to come out of that with a motive wave. We got to come out in 5. Here's my contender. There's my contender for the completion of all of this. So the Y is in, the 2 is in, the 3, 4, 5 is in. Are we coming out? It kind of looks like I've got an initial start on a 5 there. So too soon to call it, but I can certainly see 5 coming out of that. So I've got a motive wave. Looks like one. Do I get it? Yeah. So it looks like if we're going to get it, it's going to be a diagonal. So I'm going to get 1, 2, looks like 3, 4. If I get a new high, there's my 5. So a contender here for a leading diagonal to take me out of this low. You know, it's not gorgeous, but it's there. So could that work? That certainly could. Certainly could be a contender here for this low to play as my 2. Right, so can we break this channel? I wouldn't mind that. Give me a little more confidence here as we've got this fairly well established. Can I get up in here and get a 5 as a contender? Just a contender for a one wave of the one wave. Shit, it could be the one wave of the one wave of the one wave of the third. It's so small. But it's a start off of a technical pivot. It's a start. Right? We'll see what happens. Now, we got a lot of resistance to get through, of course. So as we were technical off of this swing high to swing low, here was our pivot. We're going to have to get through that on the way back. So from this same idea, from the last pivot swing to the pivot low here, all right, we're going to have to, from this, we got to get through this 50, 618. We got to get through all of that, and then we're going to have to challenge that all the way back. Every one of these major pivots is going to have to get tested. Right, so here you can see this one here. So swing, yeah, let's see if I pull this off here. So we'll have to catch this one. So that will be from here, going here, got to get through that. That was our B high. We get through that, we start looking more promising. That's 8,800. Doesn't seem, out of the bounds of what you might expect for a reaction coming out of this low. We'll have to wait and see. A lot, long weekend ahead. But we've got a contender here now. We've got a contender for a technical pivot, which would be here on Bitfinex. We'll call it 79.20. Not unreasonable that could be our low. Now, one of the things that we like to do amongst our members and with the senseis, and it's just a good exercise when you're evaluating a coin, trying to get a handle on where we are. So, as I've well documented here, because I've acknowledged it many, many times, I have a bullish bias on Bitcoin. I do think we're, at the very least, going back to challenge the old highs up at 20K. So, recognizing that, it's a good exercise to go through that process of saying, well, let's see if I can wipe that bullish bias out of my head and just approach it with just fastidious technical precision to say, is there an alternate count here that's bearish that would suggest that I'm just looking at it all wrong. So we call it the bull bear count, and this is something we're doing with senseis and members over at the private Discord, which is one person gets assigned the bullish view, one person the bearish view, and can you come up with counts that support each one of those positions? So in that spirit, I thought it might be a good exercise here to challenge the bullish count entirely and consider, is there a bearish count that would support lower prices, that would make sense given what we see here? So I went ahead and did a little work on that. So I've got this over here. So what I'm going to do before we get into that, I'm going to go out to a daily chart. All right, so we've got some, let's see, it might be, let's do this. I'm going to do it, this way. Bear with me a sec, guys. Let me get up a fresh chart here. So let's go to a spread here on 4. I'm going to go get this fresh because I think this is worthwhile. So I'm going to remove all drawing tools. Okay, so let's go back here. I'm going to go to a daily. And I'm going to go to log scale here so we can get a little bit of better clarity here. So one assumption, so if you're bringing this up first time looking at this, didn't know what it was, and you're just evaluating based on what you see. Well, from this pivot down here, what's the most obvious thing that we see? The first thing we see is that we come out of this and I get an A wave and then I get a nice 3-wave B. And then that would appear that I've got a C. Well, is that the only scenario that could be underway? If I've got an A, B, C and then I've gone into this and I didn't go into an impulsive structure. Of course, we have the contender here for another WXY. So a completed ABC would give us a W wave. This would have to be, I guess we could be here. This would have to be the X wave, and we'd be in the process of putting in a Y wave. Could that make sense? Is this a bearish count? Well, the implication would be that if this is just now going into a second ABC, we'd be looking for something like this, which would imply lower prices, which would imply at least challenging this pivot. We wouldn't have to go that low, but we'd at least be, let's put it this way, at least challenging that low. Does it make sense? Well, you got to dig into the subdivision to see if you can make that count fit. A lot of people think that's that's what's underway. That you can certainly, again, this is kind of either you find it's either the blessing or the curse of Elliott wave, is you can give this count to or you can give this chart to 10 Elliotticians, you're likely to come up with more than a few different counts, all of which will work. Well, it's so you can say, well, that's the flaw in Elliott wave, or you can say, that's one of the attractions of Elliott wave, is that you've got these contenders here, and we just adapt based on that rule set and these tendencies to try and position ourselves for probabilities of outcome. And that's all you get ever in trading. There is no certainty. There are no guarantees. So, but let's consider this as the bearish count. Well, a couple of things that draw my attention. So right off the bat here, if I'm thinking about potential targets or where we could be going. So these pivots here, I want to make note of. All right, so this is the well-known one here in 2017, where we went right to the tick of that prior resistance, offering that support. But these are important to me. So I want to consider this as well. Important to me. It was important to the market. Right, so let's look. So we've got this little pivot here as we come down, challenging that right now. So prior resistance could kick in for some support. But if this is A and B and C, well, let's dig a little bit more. Right. So what would we do? Just the very basics before we've dug into any subdivision within the count. Well, if that's my X and this is my A, I want to consider, did anything technical happen here for this B wave? So if I go right down to here, well, that shouldn't be any surprise. Okay, so if that were a B wave, what have we done? All we've done is just go right to the golden zone. I think it got through by just a couple of ticks. So for my X wave here, then I have a contender here for an AB, but that would put my C wave target down here, if we're thinking about the algo target, right down here at this prior resistance level. Here, if I can get that sitting right on it. So note here also that we get this low volume node over here. Do you see that? Low volume node just kind of teed up here right where we've got this algo target. So from this golden zone here, we know algorithms are that was sold and with that target in mind. Just like the 50 was sold, now they're defending here. Can it hold? Well, you'd want to look at all of these. So this was here, right? So this is the well-known 50. That target remains down here. So we've got multiple lower targets here. So from this, algorithms that sold right here are still sitting short with that target. Now, any algorithm that has sold from this X wave here to this low, right? They're working from this pivot to the more shallow target. So we have two targets down here this technical pattern here would support lower prices. One essentially coming down here to this prior resistance. The other one, we're heading now towards the larger algo target, and then we'd have the 618. So you get another hot box. We've got the 23.6 from the first pull. Then you've got the negative 618, the second target from the more shallow pull. So we've got two hot boxes here. So I'm going to pull this over. We make that point. So a couple of different targets here in the bearish count that would support this idea that this was a complete. We completed something substantial up here. Well, I guess we can agree to that. We complete whether it was the 5, and then this is all part of a much larger correction of a 2 wave. So we're putting in some sort of a 2. Well, if we're putting in a 2, we could have a long way to go here. So WXY. All right, 2 contenders for the Y. Much more shallow here. This is down to, what do we hear, 3,400. This is 5,140. So some pretty bearish looking scenarios here for this correction, which would not invalidate the longer term bullish bias, because all we're doing is setting up, if that's going to be a 2 of a larger degree. If this was a 5, of 5 setting up the retracement to go down for a 2, well, we'd be looking to buy into the 3. So still the potential for higher prices. Question is where and when is this correction over? So here, these are 2 very valid contenders for where we might look to expect this correction to end, on the assumption here that we're going to first go down, take out this low, then take out this low, then challenge this prior support. Now you got to get a little down and dirty to get this subdivision to play, because we can't. Let me say it this way. You can just work off of the daily chart and these tendencies here, and if anything other than this is happening, well, we're going to know pretty quickly, because we're going to go back and challenge this golden zone up here. We're going to challenge this potential B wave high, which might have all the bears rethinking this, right? Because we'd have the contender here for this to be not an A, B, but to be playing as 1, 2, and we're going up for the 3 now. That's where we started looking at that bullish count. But on this bearish count, we can't ignore these. So let's go look and see if that we can make that fit. So let's go here. I think I have it here. So let me go back down. Let's go to a 3 hour and see if this makes sense. All right. So if we allow for this, all right. So just to review, so this would be our A. So here's our 20K. A, B. We've come down for the C. That's the W. X wave is counter trend. Trend is down now. So from the W, we get a 3-wave X. From the X now, we're looking for an A, B, and a C. Well, from this X wave here, the only way this can work is this has to play as a 1, 2, 3. Well, you got to check it, right? Of course, so you'd have to look at the length of the 1 projected from that proposed potential wave 2. Well, here's the 100, so we get to the 1272. So we've got the third wave qualified here. So that plays. Then from that 2 here, I think I've shown this before. From that 2, if I've got my 3 in, here's my 4 right between the 20 or the 38 and the 50. We come down, get algo target reaction. All right, we come down. We're now just shy of the second target, but there would be more to consider here. Well, if that's 3, 4, 5, and we complete right at that algo target, do I have the potential now for that to be a completed ABC? So this would, pardon me. So this would be our A in green. I've lost the color. So this, excuse me. Let me regroup here. All right. So 1, 2 in white, 3, 4. We come down here. We finish our 5 here. So I'm going to take that off. So there's our 3, 4, 5. 3, 4, 5 of an A wave. So I want to just bring this up a little tighter so I can make this case. There's the A wave. Okay, then I get a 3-wave B. So now I've got, from my X wave here, I've got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to complete my A wave. Yep, that works. Everything's clear there. There's my B wave. Then I come down and I finish in 5, giving me an A in green here. A, B, C. So from this X wave, I've got an A, B, C to give me an A wave. That's my A. And so from there, this is where it gets a little tricky. If that's going to be X and we're going into an ABC, right? A, B, C to my A wave. Then I've got to get this in 3. So I need 3 to get into my B here. Well, it requires a very, very shallow C wave, because coming off of this low, there's no mystery about what we have here. This is very clearly an impulsive wave, but it's done in 5, giving us a contender. So it's always a possibility. Is it a 1 wave or an A wave? So potentially now, considering this bearish count, I've got 5 into an A wave. I've got an A, B, C into a B wave here in green. And then I go up and I finish in 5 for a contender here to have a very shallow, short C wave. So this is unusual for that C to be that shallow and short relative to the length of the A, but not unheard of, and certainly doesn't violate any Elliott rule set. So I can allow for that on the assumption here that now in the very largest degree. So if I put the wave on that, you can see what we're playing for. So that would be A, B, C to come. All right. Well, if we're going to get a C wave from that, if we're going to get a C wave, we got to do it in 5. So first thing right out of the chute, we've got 5 down. We can definitely get 3, 4. We get an impulsive wave here to finish as a 1 wave. All right. So if that's from this high here as my C, proposed C of the B, I can get a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of that. So that's a contender. Anytime I've got that, it's a wave or a 1 wave. So that's a contender for a 1. So, all right, so if that's my 1, so I guess we can take that. Let's take the wave off of this. I just want to make that point so you could see what we were trying to construct here. So potential roadmap here, if that's my B, I'm looking for this C to finish in 5. Well, I got a 1 wave that's in. So from that, if that's my 1 wave that's completed, and we don't know for sure that it has completed, but we've got a contender here. If that's a 1 wave, well, I'm looking for my 2, or anywhere from the 50 to the 618. That plays. 3rd wave, if it's going to go a full, we're going to get something along these lines. So we know the negative 100 will be very close to the 1618. So if I'm going to get a 1 and my 2 is going to go up in here, so this will be interesting. We'll do the same thing. We'll revisit this. So I'll leave this chart untouched next time we do a video here. So from 1, potentially now 2 plays. If we go to that level, all right, so you can see what I'm constructing here. 1, potentially a 2. So here's my 1618 high probability zone for my 3rd. So there's my candidate for my 3rd, which would take me from here, getting me down here, expecting a retrace on the 4. Right, 4, and then we'd finish down here for a 5, something along these lines. So we'd have, just hypothetically, if we got that, if this was our 2, this was our 3, we'd be looking for the 4 somewhere in here at the 38. 1 more push down for the 5, could go this low. Let's play that out. So there would be my C wave. So A, B, C. So looking just out of curiosity, if I take the length of my A, that's interesting. Okay. Length of the A. All right, so some question mark as to which pivot to use here. I actually think this is our, we get a little ABC into that 4 because that was right to the 38 to the tick. So I think this is our 5 low. So if you look here, you can see the very, it's like a couple of ticks through the 6-5, but then we fall over. Now look what we get below down here. Look at this confluence zone that we get here. So I've got strong confluence here relative to the first, the A wave projected from the B wave. Now we know a B can go anywhere from the 50 to 786. So the fact that we get just a hair through that 6-5 doesn't change the count. Makes you wonder if algos switch there, but that's it's kind of a judgment call. So you look at that, but I would keep these targets intact down here. So I've got a pretty substantial confluence zone down here at, what do we call that? Let's call it 5,200 for this potential C wave relative to the ABC. Now, just because anytime we've got 3 pivots, we got to consider the median line. So if I do that, well, that's kind of interesting. So that sets me up, remember my first target down here for my 3rd. Look how that lines up. All right, so kind of interesting. So A, B, 1, 2, 3 potentially. So maybe my 4 kicks in up here. We get the upper parallel to give me that 4. So we'd be looking for something like this. So we'd go 4 down to 5. So that completes it. That would complete the bearish count. Oh, come here. Stay there. All right, so you get the idea. So it would be 4, 3, 4, 5. We complete down here. We've got this nice technical confluence down here. And take note here, this could very easily end up right here. So we could have this kind of action. So we don't know where that goes. It could be here, and then we'd come down here. So that sets the whole thing up for the bearish count to get realized. A. So let's put that just for fun. Let's put that on. See what that looks like. So that's how you'd have it. So now pulling back out. I know that's a lot of lines. That's hard to see. But from this B here, A, B, C, right into the median line. Look how the median line, potentially a magnet there. Now, I'm not leaning into one count or the other. I mean, this would be my alternate count. This is the bearish count. Right now, I think the big contender is still that we're here putting in a 2 wave. But if I'm wrong and we continue and this continues to roll over, or we get a shallow retrace here and then we head lower again, taking out this pivot, well, you've got to consider this bearish count, taking us down to 5,200. Very real contender. All right, so with that established now, just to revisit here. No, where did I lose so many counts? I lose them. Okay, so here, yeah, here it is. So here's my other count. So here's the 1-2 count. So the two, the idea being that the 2 is in. So just to review, so you don't leave thinking that there's not a bullish scenario here for this to be playing as a 2. So as of yet, we don't have a motive wave coming out of this. We didn't quite get that clean 5 to give us a contender for some sort of motive coming off of this pivot here, right? And again, just to review, so from the 2 to the 3, right? So we're right to the algo target. So can we get a little more juice to get this start moving impulsively, or at least get a 5 wave, get a motive wave out of that low? Well, it remains to be seen. We shall see if we get that. So right now, that's a little premature to call that. But you've got a contender here for this pivot here, which would be you're essentially midway between the 50 and the 618. Wouldn't surprise me. Bitcoin, always difficult to trade. But right now, I'm watching. So this continues to be my primary count, but I just walked you through an alternate. So the idea is be prepared for either scenario. That way nothing surprises you. If you're looking to be a buyer here, the one thing that you got to like about this is that you can be entering here with relatively small stop. Right, so very, very low risk. So if we get this, did we get it? Double top. So if we get this to start to look a little bit better, you could certainly consider this as potentially, so if we double top here, so did we get anything technical? So there's my pivot, here's my 50, didn't quite get that. I'd love to see this get a little bit higher so we could get that push up here to get us to that algo target. That cleans it up as a 5. That sets us up for a retrace at 50 to the 618, anywhere in that zone. Then we'd be heading up for potentially for the 3rd. So the idea being you could be a buyer here in the 50 to the 618 range. If I can get my little box. So you could be a buyer here. Right, with if it's going to start heading down, no reason, given that we know that bearish count is there, no reason to take that below the 65. So a reasonable place looking for an entry on the assumption that you've got a good technical pivot here for the 5. All of that lines up. So a relatively lower risk scenario here on the assumption that this pivot is solid and won't be violated. Remains to be seen. Right, so we've got a lot of different ways that this can go. I'd feel better about this if we can get up here and pop this. And there's the 50, of course. So you've got that confluence. You've also got the point of control sitting right there. So the market accepts this price here. Most trading volume in this what's visible here in this visible range is right here, right at the 50. So we've got a contender for this to set us up, to give us that 1 wave, 2, then off for a 3. Then you start to lean more into the bullish count with the idea that this is a 2, and now we're moving back, heading towards some sort of an impulse to get us out of the hole here. Right, 3, 4, and 5 to follow. So all of that on the assumption that we've got a good pivot here. You got a bull count, you got a bear count. It's a good exercise to do that. Challenge yourself, see if you can do it. Wipe your chart clean and just start fresh. Try and put off any bias that you have and say, well, maybe there's a better opportunity to buy it lower. Maybe Bitcoin's going to go on sale and I can buy it below this 7,900 level. Well, we shall see. All right, guys, that'll be a wrap for the day. Feel free to give us a visit over on TradeDevils.com if you want to learn more about what we offer to you and the teaching opportunity and the education that we offer and real-time Discord, the members-only Discord. Boy, it's really a dynamic group of people and traders that we have over there. I think there's a lot of value to be found there. So consider that. You can learn more at TradeDevils.com. That's TradeDevils with an S, TradeDevils.com. All right, I'll wrap it there, and we shall be back with you on Monday. So it should be an interesting weekend. All right, have a good one.